Welcome to this explainer. Today we're doing something kind of radically different. We're going to take a close look at a single 11-word sentence. But here's the twist. We're viewing it entirely through the lens of a 30-year career in actuarial science and risk management. Now, if you know anything about actuaries, you know we're basically obsessed with risk and ruin. And honestly, tucked inside these 11 words is a complete, almost mathematical blueprint for human resilience. So we're going to break this whole thing down, piece by piece, to see how calculating your losses can literally save your identity.
Let's just dive right into the text. You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. You know, there's a real rhythm to this, right? It's almost like an equation. That first half, it's just a raw acknowledgement of a harsh reality. Or in actuarial speak, it's the frequency of loss. But then that second half hits, and it's this absolute refusal to surrender. It's the prevention of systemic ruin. Let's really tear this apart and see how it completely rewires the way you process life's absolute hardest moments.
Okay, so part 1, the inevitability of defeat.
Before we even get to that triumphant refusal, we have to look squarely at the inescapable reality of setbacks. You may encounter many defeats. And I really want to put a heavy emphasis on that word, many. Because look, in a 30-year risk management career, you learn pretty fast that friction isn't some weird anomaly. It's the statistical baseline. This text is literally preparing you for volume. I mean, think about it. When a setback happens, your brain usually panics, right? It thinks something is totally broken. But a good risk model, it calmly reminds us that, yeah, losses are actually baked into the design. Attempting literally anything meaningful guarantees that you're going to face many defeats.
Now, look at the specific verb used here, encounter. Just think for a second about what that word actually means. An encounter is just a temporary meeting. It's a passing event. In the risk business, we'd call this a single, isolated claim, or maybe just a bad quarter. It's a storm you walk through, but eventually you know it's behind you. By using the word encounter, it brilliantly frames a defeat as something completely external to you. It's just a data point that happens along your trajectory. It is absolutely not your final destination.
Moving on to part 2, the crucial pivot.
And that brings us to the real fulcrum upon which this entire philosophy rests, that little space right after the comma. Just look at the stark contrast here. On the one side, you have encountering a defeat. Like we said, that's an external event. In actuarial terms, that's simply a risk realized. It's a little fluctuation on a chart. But then, on the other side, you have being defeated, and wow, that is an internal identity. That is total insolvency. It's showing us this massive psychological chasm between losing a single battle and fundamentally becoming a loser. One is just a measurable circumstance, while the other is a permanent label you actually choose to wear.
So I'm asking you directly, when you face your next inevitable setback, because it's coming, what are you going to do? Are you going to allow a temporary external anomaly to cross that boundary and completely bankrupt your internal self? See, that space between the event itself and your reaction to it, that is your ultimate risk mitigation tool. An encounter only becomes your identity if you actually granted permission to take up permanent residence in your mind. Which leads us perfectly to part 3, refusing the identity.
So we're shifting away from the external world now. The external world is going to throw encounters at you all day long. But this is all about your internal choice. But you must not be defeated. I want you to really lock on to that word must. It doesn't say you should not, or, it'd be nice if you weren't. No, that is an absolute imperative. It's just like how a financial institution absolutely must maintain cash reserves to survive a crisis. You are literally commanded to maintain your psychological solvency. You have to accept that the loss happened. I mean, that's just reality. But you absolutely must reject the idea that the event has permanently broken you.
All right, let's bring this whole thing back together. You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. We've just seen how that first half prepares us for the absolute mathematical certainty of friction, right? And how the second half demands this ironclad internal defense against total ruin. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. The very next time you face a crushing setback, and trust me, the math says you absolutely will, when the dust finally settles, will you merely register that encounter on your balance sheet, or will you allow it to bankrupt who you fundamentally are? The choice, as these 11 words make perfectly crystal clear, is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Catch you next time.